Hello, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm the Reverend Marion Lucas Jeffries, and I am the coordinator of the Diocesan Environment Network for the Diocese of Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. I'd like to welcome people to this Diocesan Environmental Network YouTube series stemming from weekly gatherings called Spiritually Connected Through Creation. Today, I'm speaking to Ben Grieder. Ben works for the Ecology Action Centre, and his work presently includes managing the United Church of Canada's Faithful Footprints program here in the Maritimes. I've known Ben for a few years now, and it's a pleasure to have him join us today. Hello, Ben.
Hi.
Now, I'm going to say, according to his profile on the Ecology Action Centre website, and I quote, Ben is passionate about community energy planning, electric vehicle transportation, active transportation, and anything related to energy efficiency. Ben graduated from Acadia University with a professional studies degree in community development and environmental sustainability. In recent years, he's worked as a community energy planner, his goal being to help people understand the benefits of energy efficiency, energy conservation, and renewable energy. Most people have heard of accounts, Ben is a slightly different kind of accountant. He focuses more on greenhouse gas emissions, and he is an energy efficiency specialist with a background in building sciences and energy analysis. So I'd like to begin by asking a few questions in relation to the Ecology Action Centre. Can you tell us a bit about EAC, your position, and your responsibilities in the organization?
Sure. And yeah, thank you for having me here, Marion. The EAC is a member-based charity, environmental charity in Nova Scotia, taking leadership on critical issues from biodiversity to climate change to environmental justice. We have staff that work on active transportation issues, wilderness issues, city planning issues, food issues, coastal issues, and energy issues. I'm the energy coordinator on the energy team that focuses on energy efficiency. So right now, my work involves helping builders understand the benefits of deep energy retrofits through a project called Where Nova Scotia, helping building owners and Mi'kmaq communities understand the benefit and techniques of energy efficiency and deep energy retrofits, and helping faith-based institutions reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by becoming more energy efficient and sustainable.
So could you tell us a bit more about the Faithful Footprints program?
Yeah, so the Faithful Footprints program is funded by the United Church of Canada. It's designated to provide information, financial support, and navigation to grants that will reduce greenhouse gas emissions for each congregation in the building they use and operate. It's sort of spraying out of the commitment that the United Church of Canada made of trying to reduce their carbon footprint by 80% by 2050, in line with global targets. And so behind this this goal is the idea that they want to have 500 congregations involved in the Faithful Footprints program by 2025.
Wow.
Yeah. The goal is not just to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but also to help congregations save money and show moral leadership in communities across Canada. And my work in the Faithful Footprints program as the information hub in Atlantic Canada, so the Ecology Action Centre is the Faithful Footprints hub, has been to encourage other faith-based institutions to learn from the United Churches participating in the program and see how they can reduce their greenhouse gas emissions within their own faith-based buildings. So a really popular example is a lot of churches and different faith-based institutions have been learning from Woodlawn United Church with their solar installation. Most people focus on their solar installation, but they actually have they actually made a significant amount of energy retrofits as well, and a major, they added a whole new wing to their building, which was done with energy efficiency in mind.
Wow, that's really impressive, and impressive for a national church program, and the way they've been able to partner with the Ecology Action Center. So, as the expert, what would you say are the most important and or easiest actions for a parish to take to reduce energy costs and to reduce their carbon footprint?
And there's actually a laundry list of things that can be done in a church, but I sort of picked out the things that I've been noticing more lately. And I've started trying to prioritize them from the easiest to more harder things, or the things that take a little more planning and prep. So the first thing that I'll mention is make sure that your congregation is using appliances wisely and efficiently. So what I mean by that is many churches in Canada have fans. Technically, those fans should be on all the time. There is a time of year when you want the fan to go clockwise on low speed in the winter. And what happens there is that the fan will gently pull the cool air upwards, leaving only the warm air at a sitting or standing level. And so this really works well when you're trying to warm up the church or trying to warm up a congregational hall or sanctuary in a short amount of time. That fan really helps. And the fan really helps keep that warm air circulating at the level where people will appreciate it most. Most sanctuaries, I find, have this kind of inner ceiling where all that heat will end up just going into this little crevice at the top, and that fan hanging down will actually make sure that doesn't happen. In the summertime, fans can also be used to make a sanctuary cooler just by switching the direction and making it counterclockwise. Most fans that were introduced into a church in the last 30 or 40 years are multi-directional. They do go both ways. Whether they were wired properly to do that, that's another question. Whether they've ever been used in that way, that's another question. But that single appliance can really save a lot of money for a congregation that can't do anything else. And the only other appliance that I'll mention right now is fridges and freezers. Right now, Efficiency Nova Scotia accepts any fridge for their recycling program that is more than 10 years old. The reason for that is that after 10 years, the technology is so far advanced that even if you bought an Energy Star fridge 10 years ago, the newer fridges are much more efficient and will actually save you more money to buy a new fridge rather than to keep the old one and to keep it running at the efficiency level that it's at.
Okay.
So what happens, I find, with a number of churches is that they have fridges donated to them.
Right.
And often those fridges will be old. They could be 10 years old. They could be 5 years old, but they're definitely used fridges. The question is, does a church really benefit from using a fridge like that? Or should it just be a short-term mechanism in order to get a new fridge that can run more efficiently? And in my experience, having more fridges and freezer space running at a time is not good. It does cost a lot of money over a year.
Right.
I'm going to skip over to a little bit of a harder thing, and that is making sure that the heating unit in the building is actually properly delivering the heat or hot water to the places you want it to go, and making sure that that hot water, if it's a hot water tank, those hot water pipes are actually delivering hot water where the sink will actually be delivering that hot water. In most cases, you'll find that pipes are not insulated properly. And if you don't have insulated pipes, you can just think about how much heat you're losing from where that hot water is created and brought to that specific hot water temperature, and where it actually ends up being dispersed in a sink or tub. And then the only other thing I would mention is that this is something that I really want to try and promote. This is something that the United Church is actually creating this whole sort of, this concept that's really floating around, and it's an air sealing volunteer party.
Okay.
So Marion, imagine you've got a party and you're like, what's the theme? Well, you could have the theme be, let's air seal everything. And it doesn't sound sexy, let me tell you that. But you can have a lot of fun. All you need is, loudspeaker music, which is usually in a church environment. You can have lots of rooms where people can hang out, and you can have like a lot of sealant guns and spray foam guns, things like that. Even just sort of any sort of window sealant or a door sealant. Weatherization can be really great for a church, and making sure that all those air gaps are filled in can really save a church a lot of money. And it doesn't cost a lot to buy those materials and have people volunteer and do it for you. So having a party like that, especially in the fall when people want to get together and celebrate the fall and celebrate things that are happening in the fall, it's the perfect time because you can recognize where the cool air is coming into the building.
All right.
And it can be a really great time to just get people together to help out.
Turn a work party into an event.
Exactly. And it can help the church save a lot of money. If your bill, so for example, if your church is being heated by an electricity unit, whether it's baseboard heaters or something like that, and you're paying, I don't know, $5,000 a year in electricity bills, 10%, take 10% off the top, guaranteed, for just making sure that your building's more airtight. That's $500 every year that you're saving. You're saving $500. You might have to put in $100 initially to just get it done. Mm-hmm. And then you're good for a couple of years before you have to do any sort of new work on any new doors but really it does a lot for that amount of effort. You can save a lot of money for the church, and it will help the church in the long run. So yeah, those are just a couple things.
There are so many things that I hadn't thought about before. I know that I didn't really understand the effectiveness of fans when I was in parish ministry. And I never really thought, but I can take a flashback to a parish that I was in where the water was not hot by the time it came out of the tap, or not as hot as it should have been. And so some of these things that you're talking about are really, really great, and not that expensive either, are they?
No. The most expensive thing, but you don't have to get, so there are specialized insulation tubes that fit onto hot water pipes.
Right.
Those can be a little bit pricey, but then you could just buy wrapping foam insulation that does the same thing, and is much cheaper. So it really doesn't cost a lot. It does require, a bit of effort and a bit of time, mm-hmm. But in the long run, that effort and time will benefit the people in your congregation more, and really benefit the people themselves as well. So.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And so, at one point you talked about the responsibility we have, and the way the United Church has taken hold of that and is using the Faithful Footprints program as one of those things, one of the ways we can address climate change. What impact can the churches and people of faith have on climate change, in your opinion?
It's a really good question. So churches can be the central hub of a community. They can be a gathering place to share inspiration and stories that everyone can learn from and replicate in their daily lives. Talking about climate change in your church can actually ensure that church organizations are making changes, because you're delivering messages to the people in your congregation, you're delivering lessons, and you're helping people learn about the impacts that climate change is having on their community and what they can do to address it. So it does a number of things. It alleviates some of that anxiety that comes with climate change, because if you're actively trying to address it, then you feel a little bit better. You feel like, wow, I did something. I feel like I'm a little bit better off now because of this. I feel like my community is more and better off because of this. It also helps provide leadership. If you have a church that is talking about, for example, it's a church that's on the coast and they are trying to help people understand that having a living coastline will ensure that their church will be there 100 years into the future, because they're actively trying to make sure that soil erosion is not occurring as much. That lesson will actually impact and provide leadership for everyone else in that community. And then you'll actually see more living coastlines rather than these rocky coastlines that people are putting up that really just shove the problem down shore, and really doesn't solve the problem long term. It really basically says, yeah, I care about my land, but I don't care about my neighbor.
Right.
So that's just one thing. Churches used to be the central hub of every community in Canada.
Yeah.
Is that going to continue, and how is that going to continue? It's a really interesting question.
Exactly. And we've learned in the environment network for our diocese that one of the things that we can do is provide meeting space for people who are interested in the environment but can't afford a church hall, for example, to the rental, or any hall. And so we have been able to offer that space, but in conversation too, we have been able to give people hope, empower them, and help them feel a little bit more in control. So one of the ways that we've been, and one of the things that we've appreciated is being able to have a wonderful relationship with the Ecology Action Center, as well as other environment groups, as a community of faith, and people connected to the Diocesan Environment Network. How can we be supported by the Ecology Action Center and the types of programs that you manage?
So you can get inspired by the stories we share. You can also help share the stories, and maybe even share some of your own stories. The expertise that we can provide or connect you to are there. So, my primary work is with United Churches, but technically I also have a mandate to connect with other faith-based institutions as well. So, if your church needs some advice, you can call me.
Great.
I can be
Great.
there. And there's knowledge that we can give you. So solar is a very big topic right now, and there's a lot of solar installers out there.
Right.
It's very hard to understand what these installers are actually quoting you, because the technology is constantly changing, constantly being updated, and it's not like solar installers will give you a quote that you then can compare to a different installer and say, why are the prices different? Are they actually quoting me the same system? Most cases they aren't. They're quoting different parts, different materials, different everything. And so if you can't compare apples to apples, then you're really not sure which one to choose in the first place. And
Right.
you might not choose the best option. So we can definitely help you navigate that. There's resources that already exist on the Faithful Footprints website that you can access as well, such as the do-it-yourself faith building energy audit. That's available for free online. It's on the Faithful Footprints website, but then you sort of get redirected to another website.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is put in your email address. That's just so they know how many people are actually using the booklet.
Okay.
And then you can access that for free. There's virtual green audits from Faith in the Common Good. So these are virtual green audits, so they can be done anytime, anywhere, depending on, no, I'm not saying midnight or anything, but the fee right now on the website is $100 per hour, which can be very affordable if you're just trying to get some very specific advice about faith-based institutions trying to become more energy efficient.
And the paybacks there.
And the paybacks there. There's a document about financing options for greening your sacred space. Mm-hmm. And that is somewhat older, but there could be something else coming out sooner that might replace that. Okay. And then there's also links to energy efficiency grants by the different utilities in each province. So on the website, there is actually 4 different provincial sort of sites that you get redirected to based on where your church is, and that will help you find the resource you're looking for.
And that's on the Faithful Footprints webpage.
Yeah. Yes.
Great.
So just faithfulfootprints.org.
Great. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think if that answers everything from your question.
Well, and is there anything else you would like to add or to share with us?
Yes.
Okay.
But Marion, just let me know how long you would like to talk, how long I can talk for, because I could go on and on.
And I don't think we have a specific limit. We should probably try to wrap it up in the next 2 or 3 minutes, but okay. Everything you've said so far has been so informative, and I don't want to miss anything. I know that there are more opportunities to talk to you, and we can call you if we need you, and it's been wonderful so far, and you've been there all the time. So, but if there's anything in the next 2 or 3 minutes you'd like to say.
Yeah, so I want to bring up a couple questions that I really suggest anyone listening to this should just ponder, especially if you're thinking about what your congregation is doing and where it's going. So what do you want your church to be like 30 years from now? Many cities are doing this kind of planning where they're looking 30 years out and saying, that's where we want to be. And then they're sort of thinking, how do we get there? What strategies has worked in the past that could be reused or adjusted to help you reach your 30-year vision? So in some cases, it's interesting. Community gardens is a thing that's happening a lot more now, but that used to be a thing in World War II. That there were backyard gardens, there were community gardens. I came across one community in Newfoundland recently that restarted their old World War II community garden after not being used, the land just laying fallow for 40 years. But then that exact same spot, they reused it to create a new community garden. So it's not to say that things that worked in the past wouldn't work again. Another question to consider is what is not working right now that needs to change to reach your 30-year vision? And that could be that's a very interesting question. And it could be might depend on who you talk to. but it's definitely a question that should be asked. And, you know, are the systems that you have right now going to support you in that 30-year vision, or do systems structures need to change? And who should you talk to really make these changes happen to get to that 30-year goal? Who should be involved? That should be the major starting point. And if you start looking at these questions, then you're not just saying, okay, what do we do to make sure that our congregation can pay for the building in the next 5 years? You're not doing that. You're thinking, okay, we have this 30-year vision. Let's try to get there. And this is how we're going to do it. And you're not just saying, oh, the church down the street is dying out. Don't worry, we'll get their congregants, so we don't have to do anything else to keep our congregation going.
Right.
That won't happen either, because you're constantly striving. If one of your goals is to try and make your congregation grow, you'll think of ways to do it and plan that out. There's not a point in time that I see where a congregation needs to focus in on itself so much as focus on how it's part of the community.
Right.
And I think thinking that way, you can make any organization, including a faith-based organization, last for all time, thinking in those terms. And that would help you address climate change as well.
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense. And you know, we're having conversations about where we want to be and how we want to survive and thrive as a church, and how we want to be relevant in the community. I think one of those ways is to be developing relationships with the community at a time when we have a common cause, and that is the climate crisis that we face. And so we can do those wonderful internal things that make us more sustainable in reducing our energy efficiency and reducing our carbon emissions. But we can look at it and integrate things and our other concerns and actions into that. And so I think your questions are really important. I hope that people who watch this video take them to their parishes and have those conversations.
Yeah.
And so I look forward to further conversations with you, Ben. And thank you so much for offering your time. It's been incredible. You're so knowledgeable, and I feel like we only got a chance to barely tap into all of that knowledge. But I do really want to thank you for everything that you've said today, and the relationship that we'll continue to build in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. Yeah, if there's any other questions, feel free to look up my information on the Ecology Action Center website.
Will do, and we'll add it to our website if we. Yeah, I don't think we have all of it right now, but we'll be certainly adding this video to our website and our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, and we'll make sure that we spread this word and that people are able to benefit by your wisdom and knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you.